The former leader of Kazakh communists Serikbolsun Abdildin is directly linked to the key historic events of the country, such as the building of the state's independence, adoption of the constitution in 1993, and the long and uncompromising struggle against the current rule. Find out more from the next story.
He never was a typical and cliched party official, but rather a politician and a scientist. His career began in the State Planning Commission and then reached the heights of the Agriculture Minister, Kazakh Republic representative in the USSR Council of Ministers, and even the Speaker of the Supreme Council of the 12th Convocation. Serikbolsun Abdildin was one of the first people in the late 80s to support the young and ambitious Nursultan Nazarbayev, boosting the career of the future head of state. Yet understanding the true nature of the first president came to Abdildin already in the early years of Nazarbayev's presidency, during the attempts to legitimize the presidential form of government in the constitution of 1993.
He tried to recruiting me in order to change the principal values and the direction of the constitution. He wanted to secure the presidential form of governance in the main law.
Back then the document was adopted in its original version, but the Supreme Council which approved it was later dissolved. The same fate befell the next convocation. Kazakhstan was living without a legislative authority for the entire year, during which the constitution was rewritten and adopted as amended by President Nazarbayev. Meanwhile, Serikbolsun Abdildin was heading the Communist Party of Kazakhstan, transforming the socialistic values and making the ideas of the Communist Party once again relevant. During the 1999 presidential elections, the power of the Communist Party was evident, as Abdildin came second in the race. The Communist Party received a number of seats in the parliamentary elections.
These are the remains of the old communist way, not the UN. We have to leave behind the communist and president's regime and create normal conditions for the parliament.
In the early 2000s, Abdildin supported young reformers in their idea to establish a movement Democratic Choice of Kazakhstan. Back then, the consolidation of opposition forces frightened the authorities, recalls Abdildin. Nevertheless, according to him, the process of unification of the opposition is still ongoing today. There are currently two active movements, for democracy and for a fair Kazakhstan. Such interaction will continue under the new leadership of the party, says Abdildin. Meanwhile, the former leader intends to focus on writing, although no memorials are planned yet. They will be too subjective, says the communist, demonstrating his adherence to the democratic principles.
The authorities should share responsibility for the consequences of the tragedy in Kazalagash, said on Tuesday the participants of the round table organized by the unregistered party Alga. Kazalagash residents need to set up a local self-government and elect deputies among the villagers.
Political leaders said the state is trying to help everyone, but there is no control over the situation, so while some residents manage to receive humanitarian aid and coal, others are left with nothing at all. Members of the unregistered party Alga are planning to set up a temporary camp in Kazalagash, where villagers will be able to receive necessary items and also recover their lost documents. Professional social worker and a lawyer will be also working at the scene. The psychological and legal assistance will be provided to about 20 families.
There are certain problems with the recovering of lost documents, as their lack leaves people without the compensations. We will also help them with other issues that they cannot cope with on their own.
On April 20th, Kazakh National Patriots announced the creation of a new nationwide association named Protection of Independence, which will be set up on the base of the public association with the same name. Famous poet Mukhtar Jakhshanov will chair the new organization, while one of his 12 deputies will be a young national patriot, Janbolat Mamai.
According to Janbolat Mamai, the national patriots who have already spoke against the doctrine of the national unity have a new target now. It's the abolition of the customs union between Kazakhstan, Russia and Belarus. According to the opposition, the new entity will lead to the disappearance of Kazakhstan's economic independence and will become a prototype of another Soviet Union. National patriots are particularly concerned about rumors that soon the CIS will follow the example of the European Union and introduce a single currency as well as common passports. This will supposedly destroy the country's identity. Today, Kazakhstan People's Assembly approved the controversial draft of the National Unity Doctrine.
The meeting was attended by about 50 founders of this organization who proceeded to the election of the chairman. All the necessary documents from the movement's official registration will be sent to the Justice Ministry soon.
Kazakh BTA Bank has postponed the repayment of its obligations to $7 million over 20 years, reported the head of the National Foundation, Samruk Kazana Kairat Kilimbetov, during the recent cabinet meeting.
As a result of restructuring, the current BTA debt will be reduced from $11.5 to nearly $4.5 million. However, the bank will need 20 years to repay the money, not 5 as expected earlier. Creditors' vote on the approval of restructuring plans will be held sometime in May. Kairat Kilimbetov said that during the second quarter of the year, the fund will enter intensive talks with Russian Sberbank to sell it a part or all of the fund's BTA shares.
As a result of restructuring, the external debt of BTA Bank will be reduced from $11.5 to $4.4 billion, while the terms of payment will be extended from 1 to 5 years, up to 8 to 20 years, with the reduction in the average rate of borrowing to 8.7%. The external creditors will receive 18.5% of BTA's ordinary shares, while Samruk Kazana's share will be more than 81.4%.
The current OSCE chair, Kazakh Foreign Minister Kanat Saudabayev, is visiting Bishkek, Kyrgyzstan. The official plans to hold talks with the head of the interim government, Roza Atunbayeva, acting head of the Foreign Ministry, Ruslan Kazakbayev, and also the new head of the National Security Service, Kinishbek Dushibayev. It was recently revealed that Atunbayeva appealed to the president of Kazakhstan, Nursultan Nazarbayev, asking him for assistance.
First of all, it is necessary to restore law and order and deal with the most pressing socio-economic problems. Only then will there be necessary conditions for the further democratization of Kyrgyzstan's development.
Meanwhile, deputy head of the interim government of Kyrgyzstan, Almazbek Atambayev, met with Kazakh Prime Minister Karim Masimov in Astana. At a later briefing, Atambayev said that famous Kyrgyz journalist Gennady Pavlyuk was murdered in Almaty by the operatives of Kyrgyzstan's special services. Even if someone will deny this, we already know that journalist Gennady Pavlyuk was murdered in Almaty by Kyrgyz security services, said Atambayev. Last December, the reporter died in Almaty hospital after being thrown out of the 6th floor window. The investigation of this incident is still underway. A dispute between representatives of legislative, executive and judicial branches can lead to a protest near the presidential palace in Astana. A deputy of a district council was sentenced to community service for doing what he actually is supposed to do, executing the will of the people. Ibrahim Junizbekov went at law with the head of Kakterek village in the southern Kazakhstan region. This suit was later followed by 2 additional counterclaims of libel, as well as mutual accusations of insulting honor and dignity. The next report has more details of this intricate story.
The deputy of the district council will have to sweep the streets of his native village Kokterek in the southern Kazakhstan for the whole year. Ibrahim Junizbekov says that this is the price he will pay for exposing the village head in the local newspaper Saryagash. Supposedly, Amir Ali Pazilov continuously exceeded his official powers and sometimes even forgot to perform his duties altogether. In his turn, the administrator accused the deputy of defamation, wrote a refutation in the same newspaper, and filed a lawsuit against the abuser. This was followed by Junizbekov's counterclaim, which did not help him from losing all the cases. That is why the deputy came to Astana, where he held a press conference on Tuesday talking about the injustice of local courts.
These decisions were made by the judge deliberately in collusion with the head of the village to stop me from exposing their illegal actions.
Now Pazilov is trying to revoke Junizbekov's deputy mandate, while the people's representative is collecting signatures of his supporters for the appeal to the government, president and Supreme Court. Junizbekov says that he is very determined in his actions and is ready to employ extreme measures, including a hunger strike in front of the president's palace in Astana.
These were all the latest updates from Kazakhstan. Thank you for being with us and goodbye.